Discover Mercury. Desktop. StreamYard. Next bookmark. Discover Mercury. Journey to the innermost planet Mozilla Firefox. Discover Mercury.
Hello, welcome. Here's our live stream for today, and knock on wood, hopefully we won't have any gremlins visiting us or being part of the stream today. Adjust my camera a little bit. All right, I got sound working, I got a mouse and a keyboard working, I got a site to test. I think we should be all set. So last time, of course, I had a lot of trouble if you were here last time. So sorry for all of that. Um, sorry, sorry for that. So hopefully today's stream will go a little bit more smoothly, because I think we've sorted out all the problems. So one weird thing, my streaming platform, last time I could not find the option to share the computer audio to the stream. Like it was just missing. It was just completely missing. And today it was there and I tried to turn it on. Why was it there today and not last week? Who knows? Because last week was cursed. Um, but I turned it on to share the audio, and within 30 seconds, it said, "Oh, that crashed. We're not sharing the audio." So we're back to the. I have a Bluetooth speaker hooked up to my laptop, and it's next to my microphone, so you'll be able to hear what the screen reader is reading today. So I hope everything is lovely where you are. We are having a beautiful day here in Los Angeles. It is sunny and 77 degrees. So nice, beautiful blue sky, sunshine, perfect temperature, lovely day. I hope it's the same where you are. Um, what we are going to be doing today is learning how to do accessibility testing using the NVDA screen reader and Firefox. So let's talk a little bit about screen readers. So first off, each screen reader, we have three most commonly used screen readers would be NVDA, JAWS, and VoiceOver. VoiceOver pretty much only gets used because it's your only option if you're on Mac or iOS. It's not a very great screen reader, to be honest, and it's really different from all the other screen readers. Um, and we have other live streams where I've gone through how to use VoiceOver, and I'm sure we'll do them again in the future. So if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, um, you can take a look at those. There's the recordings up on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Each screen reader has a browser that it likes to be paired with, that it works best with and works most reliably with. For VoiceOver, as you might expect, that browser is Safari. Whether you're on iOS or Mac OS, you would want to use VoiceOver with the Safari browser. That is how it is going to work most reliably and get the best possible results. For JAWS, you would want to use that with Edge. And today we're using NVDA, and it partners best with Firefox. So we have a window here, Firefox window open. I have NVDA installed and running, and you're going to hear everything I do today. And we're going to go ahead and test this page. And I have two versions of this page. So if you haven't joined the stream before and seen this Discover Mercury page before, this is an AI generated website. It was generated by DeepSeek, in case you're interested in which AI did this. I did not specifically ask for an accessible website. I simply asked for a travel site for the planet Mercury. And it didn't question me. It just went with it and built out, like, honestly, I'm kind of impressed with what it came up with content wise. It did hallucinate paths to some images. So I had to go find my own images to fill in on the page. And of course, it didn't do a very good job of making an accessible website, which we'll find out. We'll dig into that in just a minute and we'll see the kinds of mistakes that it did make with accessibility. Now, like I said, I didn't specifically ask for an accessible website, but I shouldn't have to. Um, I shouldn't have to like specify that I want an accessible website, right? That should be the default of what it's doing. And it was not. So if you're using any kind of AI to generate code or generate a website, definitely you're going to need to check the accessibility of that. And I think that's true even if you have specifically asked for an accessible result. They're just, AI is just not that good at presenting accessible code for us. All right, so let's talk about some basics about screen readers. So sometimes it can be a little bit challenging and intimidating to figure out how to use a screen reader if you haven't done it before. And part of what makes that a little bit scary and intimidating to try to figure out is that there is not much of a graphical user interface, right? It is mostly an audio interface, and it's a lot of keyboard shortcuts and a lot of listening to what the platform reads out. So they do typically have usually some kind of user interface. And one thing that VoiceOver has, for example, is it will put a little box on the screen with the printed text of what it's reading out loud, which makes it really easy to understand what's happening. Not all screen readers do that, or some of them might have that as an option that you could turn on. There is a speech viewer in NVDA. So if you want that to be turned on, you can enable speech viewer in the tools menu of NVDA. So that is an option if you like that. And it can be helpful for when you're testing and you're not used to using a screen reader. Um, all right, so NVDA is free. So anybody can go and download it and install it and use it. It is for Windows only. So that's another important thing to do. All right, let's dive into learning a little bit about how to do accessibility testing with NVDA. So the very first thing that you always want to learn about a screen reader is how to make it stop talking. Because sometimes you get into a state where it's just saying things and it's not doing what you want, and you just want it to stop talking. So with NVDA, how we do that is we just hit the control key. So if I just move my mouse around over here, maybe.
Look, learn more button. To discover Mercury.
It's just going to start reading things. And as I start interacting with the computer, opening and closing windows, using applications, it's just going to start saying stuff out loud. And if I don't want it to, you can just hit the control key to cut it off and make it stop talking. So that's our very first important thing to know how to do. Um, that leaves the screen reader on, right? And the next time that there's something to be read, it will read it out. It's still active, but you can at least stop it from reading out what it's doing right now with the control key. All right, so to turn NVDA on or off, it's just keyboard shortcut. So Control Alt N will turn it on, and insert the insert key on your keyboard, which I have a little issue with that because I'm working off of a laptop keyboard, and then I got this little teeny tiny Windows keyboard that does not have an insert key. So the laptop itself does have an insert key, but insert is the magic key in NVDA. So that's like our modifier key for anything that we want to do. So the insert key plus the letter Q will turn NVDA back off. And that completely shuts it down, turns it off. It will stop reading, right? It's shutting the application down. All right, so control will make it stop reading. And then we have a variety of different keyboard shortcuts that will tell it to do different things. So if we want to just start reading the page, right? Like we just landed here, we don't know what's here. We want to just kind of figure it out, like maybe listen to a little bit of the page. That would be the insert key plus the down arrow is going to make that start reading for us. So let's see if I can actually do that on this little keyboard.
Movement by page not supported.
Oh, what? Do I not have the right thing?
Discover Mercury. Journey to the innermost planet. Movement.
Oh, yep, it's giving me problems here.
200 and snipping tool overlay. Desktop selection area change dimensions. Desktop
Oh,
Windows ML sort snipping tool discover.
I didn't want
To
to
discover list minimize.
All right.
Bookmarks.
Let me try this on my computer here.
249,900 and the Mercury flyby.
Okay, I gotta stop touching the mouse. Sorry.
$249,999, $299,999, save $50,000. SpaceX Starship. Yeah, guide. Gourmet meals.
Okay, let me just pause it there. So it because I was having a little bit of trouble with the different keyboards and things, I ended up scrolling down the page and moving focus down to this. Okay, I got my hand on the control key ready to cut it off. This Mercury flyby
Mercury flyby.
section, it started reading right at the price, which is probably the most confusing part of the page that it could possibly have started reading at. But using that insert plus the down arrow is going to have it just start reading from wherever it happens to be on the page, and it's just going to read through item by item by item. So if you wanted to just kind of hear, like, what does the page sound like? That's something that you could do. It's probably not the way that most people are going to navigate around a site. So let's talk about how we can get around on the page. So if I want to just skip to the next item on the page, the next item, the next item, the next item, all I need to do is to hit the down arrow on the keyboard. So I'm going to try that now, and we'll just, I think we're at the, I think I don't want to put my mouse over it, but I think right to the right of my mouse here, it says SpaceX Starship, and I think that's where we are, but let's see what happens if I hit the down arrow.
Button book now.
Okay, so I'm at the Book Now button at the bottom of that. So let me hit it again.
Graphic Mercury landing.
Okay, so I get the graphic for the Mercury landing, so that very colorful rainbow image that's there in the middle column.
Best value.
And then it reads the little best value pill that's up at the top right of that image.
Heading level 3, Mercury landing.
All right, and then it read out to us that that was a level 3 heading for the Mercury landing. Um, so we could keep going through the page like that, just jumping one item at a time, one item at a time. Now, you'll notice that that was just moving through whatever item happened to be next, whether it was a heading, an image, a paragraph, a button, right? It was just moving between any kind of content that was on the page. If I wanted to only move between focusable items on the page, you would do that the same way that you would do if you were just doing keyboard navigation by just hitting the tab key. So I'm going to try doing that a few times and we'll see what the result of that is. So I believe because our focus is currently on that Mercury landing heading in the middle column there, it should skip right to that Book Now button that's at the bottom of that column. That would be the next focusable item.
Book now button.
Yeah. Now, that button just said Book Now, didn't really tell us what we're booking. So that's something that maybe we would want to look at. I am on the original AI generated version of this page. Um, so we would expect that we're going to run into some kind of problem. So if I hit the tab key again, I expect I'm going to get another Book Now button.
Book now button.
Yeah. And there's no real way for me to distinguish between those two buttons because they both just say Book Now. So that's something that we would want to maybe take a look at and get fixed so that we would have a way to distinguish between those buttons. All right. If we want to activate a link, we want to book now, we would just hit the enter key on the keyboard. It's not actually going to work because, spoiler alert, you can't actually go to Mercury. I'm so sorry to break the news to you, but the links on this page for booking and things like that are not real links. So we can't actually go visit the planet Mercury. So we won't be able to test that out today. Now, another way that we can get around the page is by skipping between all of the headings. And ideally, the headings of a page would form an outline or a structure of what the page looks like. And normally you would want to have a single H1 at the top level of the page that would tell me what's the main idea of what this page is about. So, for example, an About Us page on a site would say About Us or About our company or maybe just About or, like about a person if it's a personal website. So, something like that is an H1. And then each section of content on the page should be headed up by an H2. And then if you have subsections within those sections, those should each be headed up by an H3 and so on. We do have all the way down to an H6, but it's pretty rare to go much past an H3. If I'm being honest, I will occasionally see a website using H4s, but really H1, 2, 3 covers most use cases for most websites, unless you have very complicated structured data that you're trying to present. So if we want to just skip through the page by the headings, we would just hit the H key on the keyboard. And so I'm at the very bottom of that right-hand column that we see on the screen right now that is headed by Grand Mercury Tour. So if I hit the H key, I would expect that I'm going to jump down to the next section, and it should hopefully be an H2, but we'll find out.
Mercury Experience heading level 2.
Hey, heading level 2, not bad. So the AI got that right. And then I would expect if I hit that again, that I would go to where that says double sunrises in the leftmost column, and that would hopefully be a heading level 3, but let's find out.
Double sunrises heading level 3.
Hey, that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and try the crater exploration and low gravity activities and make sure those are both H3s as well.
Crater exploration heading level 3. Low gravity activities heading level 3.
All right. So that's how we can kind of get around the page by headings. You could just start at the top of the page, use that H key to quickly listen to all of the headings and what their levels are as a way of making sure that your heading hierarchy on the page, that your outline that gets created by those headings was actually correct. So that's one way of going about it. It's not the only way to do that, but it's something that a screen reader is sometimes really helpful for testing. Now, another option that we have is to go to headings of just a certain level. So if I wanted, for example, to just quickly scan through the sections of the page, those should all be headed by H2s if the page is correctly structured. So by just hitting the 2 key on the keyboard, I should be able to just kind of browse quickly through the headings of the different sections of the page. So I'm going to hit the 2 key on the keyboard and we'll see how that works.
Traveler testimonials heading level 2. Frequently asked questions heading level 2. Ready for the journey of a lifetime. Heading level 2.
So it seems to be working relatively well. And you can see how that would be very helpful for quickly scanning through a page to understand what the different sections of content are, especially if you're looking for something in particular, or just to kind of get an idea of what's here, like what's on this page, what kind of content is presented here. So that could be a really handy way of doing it. And you can use numbers 1 through 6 to go through any level of headings that you want to on the page. We can also get a list of all the headings by hitting the Insert key plus F7, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do on my little keyboard, so I'll do it on the laptop.
Quick settings grouping. Project grouping. List. Extend 3 of 4.
That was not what I expected it to be. Hold on. Did I hit the right thing? Insert plus F7. Oh, do I have to hold down the function key? Let's see. No.
Desk project. Back.
Oops, it did
Back but
something.
Wi-Fi toggle button.
It
Desktop.
opened up
Desktop
some.
list.
It opened up some settings on the laptop
Discover
instead.
Mercury. Journey to the innermost planet Mozilla Firefox. Discover Mercury. Journey to the search. Microsoft Big Document. Assignment. This bookmarks.
All right, so I got a little technical difficulty with my keyboard here. Let me try this one more time. I did think I had to hold the function key, but
Elements
there we
list
go.
dialog. Tree view. Desktop elements.
Let me put this over on the screen so that we can all see it. So this is similar if you've seen the videos where I walk through how to use VoiceOver. There's the rotor in VoiceOver, and here we have. I'm not exactly sure what it is called in NVDA actually, but it's similar to the rotor in VoiceOver, where it's going to allow me to just quickly skip around on the page to all the links, all the headings, all the form fields, all the buttons, or all the landmarks. And this gives me a quick shortcut for how to get there. So you can see that this little screen, we do have an actual UI here, but we could also use this by just listening to what it's going to read to us. And you can see that the radio button bar that goes across the top there has little letters underlined, right? So links has a K, for example, underlined. The rest of them, I think, are mostly the first letter. No, landmarks is a D. So by hitting that key on the keyboard, I can select that option. So if I hit H on the keyboard at this point, I would expect that to jump to the headings radio button or tab and show me a list of all the headings on the page.
Home. Same page 6 of 20
Didn't do
level
that.
0. Heading.
All right,
Grouping.
we'll just
Headings
skip to the
radio
headings.
button pressed not checked Alt plus. H.
All right, let me just.
Travel Sarah J. Low gravity activity.
Okay. So you can see that what it has created in this little window here is an outline of our document by the headings. So I can see Discover Mercury as the main H1 of the page. Then I have Mercury Travel Packages as an H2, the Mercury Experience as an H2, Traveler Testimonials as an H2. And then, for example, inside Mercury Travel Packages, I can see that I have 3 H3s, the Mercury Flyby, the Mercury Landing, and the Grand Mercury Tour. So if you remember creating document outlines in like 6th grade in school, right, this is creating an outline of our HTML document for us so that we're able to get a feel for how the heading structure of the site is set up. This can help us to identify places where that heading structure is maybe not what we would expect, and then we can flag those to get those fixed.
Creator exploration. Sarah J. Traveler testimonials. Ready for the journey of a lifetime. Contact US.
All right. So that gives us an idea of kind of browsing through the entire page by the headings alone. That is an option for us. We can, of course, also browse by all the links on the page.
Links, experience, same page.
Now, you'll notice that a lot of these links are saying same page, same page, same page. And that is because this is a fake website and all of the links are fake. Like there are a bunch of links on here, but they don't actually take us anywhere. Because we can't actually go to Mercury. We can't actually book the trip. So our homepage is the same page, packages. So those are actually the main nav, and they will actually jump down to those sections of content. But all the other links are fake. The only exception is that if I scroll down all the way to the footer,
same page,
we do have this credits menu that's in the footer. And that does actually provide us links to the sources of all the images that are, Creative Commons or otherwise just openly available images that were used on this site. And so that's just the credits section saying, here's where all the images came from. So I think those are the only real actual links that are on the page. So this is a little bit of a funny page to try to test for links just because most of them are fake links. But on any kind of website, we would have this links menu available to us, and we would be able to see a list of all of the links that are on the page. This also helps to highlight for us how important it is that a link be an accurate description of the text that's inside a link, rather, should be an accurate description of where that link is going to take us. So if I look at this list of links that's here, and NVDA is going to start reading here.
Home, same page.
Okay. I can tell home, I know what that is. I don't need any further explanation. I understand what that is. Packages, experience, FAQ, contact, etc. Now, we do see all of those repeated, and I think it's because there is a badly coded mobile version of the menu on the page. AI generated page. So we see all of those again. We do see
experience, contact, PIA 15,162 by NASA.
all right, at the very bottom, we do see 5 or 6 links that just say unlabeled. So we can tell immediately there's a problem there because how do I know what that link is doing if it's just called unlabeled? Like, what on earth is that link for? I have no way of knowing what that link does. Now, what those links are is
List.
they are the social media links that appear over here. So they're just an icon without any kind of accessible name or accessible text that's in the link. So there's no way for the screen reader to understand what those are. So in order to correct those, we would need to add alt text on the icons, or we would need to add some kind of hidden screen reader text or an ARIA label or some way of giving those icons accessible names so that a screen reader would be able to communicate to the user what those links are for and what they're all about. So you do always want to check the link text by looking at this list or listening to the list, whichever one you prefer, to make sure that all of those link names are self-explanatory and that we understand where they're going to be taking us and what's going to happen when we click on them. All right, let's take a look at what do we have next. We can skip around by lists. I don't believe there are any lists on this page. I guess we could go through the other panels.
Head type, form fields, rated elements list.
All right, so another thing that we can do, another way that we can get around the page is by looking at just the form fields. So if I know that this is a page I've come to and I just want to fill in a form, like I'm trying to get in touch with somebody, I'm on their contact page, for example, or I'm on a page to fill out an application for something, I may just be interested in what are the form fields. Like, let's just go, let's get this form filled in. I don't want to be distracted by all this other content. So you can just skip it directly to this form field section and understand what all the different form fields are. Now, this is not just form fields that you would actually fill in as a user. You'll notice that we have several things that say button on them because buttons are interactive form elements. And so it is calling out all of the buttons as well as the actual form fields. In fact, I think all of the ones that we can see in the window right now are actually buttons and not actual form fields. But we can see on the page over here. Sorry, we can see on the page over here that there is actually a form there, right? We do actually have like a contact form. So let's see if we can find it.
Learn more
in this list.
Are there physical requirements? Button.
Okay.
Are there your email, your name, edit, has autocomplete.
All right, so there we go. So it's flagging for us that here's a your name field. It's called your name. It's editable and it has autocomplete turned on it. So if I have settings saved in my browser, it will fill that in for me. So this is a Windows laptop that I use just for testing. So I don't have any browser data saved. But if you use a browser regularly, those autocomplete options can be really handy. They can also sometimes trip you up by filling in something you didn't mean to, like the wrong phone number or the wrong email address. So you do have to look at them carefully, and you may need to go into your browser settings and adjust those. But they can save you a lot of typing because we do tend to fill out a lot of the same stuff over and over again, right? Like our name, our address, our email address, our phone number, shipping address, credit card numbers, like all of those things can be saved in the autocomplete settings of your browser and then just automatically filled in, and lots of other things as well. So my browser doesn't have anything, so I'm not going to benefit from that right now. But that is something that you can do, and it'll save you a lot of typing. So if we look through the form fields here, we have your name. So nicely labeled. I understand what that form field is about. Email address. Same. Understand what that's about. My interest. And I can see that that is a combo box. So I'm going to get a list of things to choose from to say what I'm interested in. And I can also see just by looking at this text here that the combo box is currently closed, and that the option Mercury Flyby is currently selected. So let me put my mouse over that and we'll just hear what it has to read when it reads that out.
Interest, combo box, collapsed, Mercury Flyby.
So I can understand, like, that is a field called interest. It is a select item where I'm going to be able to select from a list of options. It is currently closed, and the current selected option is Mercury Flyby. Okay, if we look at the next form field, message. I understand what that is, send message button. Then we have another form on the page that is not currently in view. So let me scroll down so we can take a look at it.
Have questions about traveling to Mercury, desktop.
So at the lower right-hand corner of the footer, we do have a subscribe to newsletter form there as well. And I can see that I have a your email field, and it is coming up as labeled your email, even though it looks like that's a placeholder and not an actual label. But that's okay. That's something we could take a look at. It does have autocomplete, so it would hopefully fill in if I have that data saved in my browser. And then I have an unlabeled button. So the purple button here, yeah, it's not even reading something out for it when I put my mouse over it, because there's no text in that button. So that is an icon only button. It has the little arrow icon and it doesn't actually say anything. Now, in a form that simple that just has an email field and a button, yes, some tech-savvy users are going to be able to figure out that that would be the submit button for the form. But not everybody would be able to figure that out. And sometimes on a form, forms can be a lot more complicated than that. So we would want to make sure that we would add some kind of a label or text to that button so that everybody could understand what it's all about. All right, let's go ahead and look at, we can also,
Buttons radio button pressed not checked type.
all right, we can also look at just a list of the buttons that are on the page. So you can see what we've got here: book now, book your voyage, learn more, book now, book now, book now. And we can see that there's a problem there, right? That we just hear book now, book now, book now, book now. And we're not really being told what we're booking, which if those were all booking the exact same thing, that's fine then, right? But they're not, right? Because we have, if I scroll back up,
elements list, ready for the journey of a lifetime. Elements list.
Move this out of the way.
Elements list. Walk on Merc 4.7, 128 reviews.
All right. I actually have 3 different travel packages that I might be booking. And I have no way of distinguishing between those 3 packages if I am just looking at the form fields or I'm just looking at the buttons. They all just say book now, book now, book now. And they don't tell me what I'm booking, right? So maybe we could change those to say something like book Mercury Flyby now, book Mercury Landing now, book Grand Mercury Tour now, so that there would be a way to distinguish between those when we're just looking at the list of buttons that are on the page. And then finally, we have landmarks over here.
Mercury, but landmarks and content info.
And this particular version of the page that was generated by AI only has 2 sad little landmarks for us, and a navigation landmark and a content info landmark. So content info is the footer. If you haven't come across that before, content info is the name of the footer landmark. So we have one navigation landmark and we have one content info landmark. Ideally, we would have a main landmark that would contain the main content of the page, but that is missing from this particular page. And then I can see also that this page has a header at the top that has our Discover Mercury logo. It has our navigation. It has a book now button. And that would presumably be repeated across every page of the site. And so it should also be marked up by a header tag, which would be a banner landmark. So that's missing from this page. So we're missing a bunch of important landmarks, which are, we can use this list to jump around to these different areas of content. So if I, for whatever reason, wanted to jump directly to the footer,
content preview,
I can do that.
Move this content info landmark, Discover Mercury.
So it jumped me right down to the footer. So those landmarks can be really helpful for just quickly getting around to the different parts of the page. If I want to quickly skip to the navigation, to the footer, because maybe I'm looking for, the sitemap or the contact us link, or maybe I want to read the privacy policy, right? All of those things I would expect to find in the footer. And so I might want to jump directly to the footer to get to those things. Or I might say, okay, I'm ready to go to a new page, jump me back up to the navigation so that I can look through what my options are and I can jump to a new page in the navigation. So we want to make sure that we have all of those landmarks on the page and so that we can use them to navigate around and to find the different bits of content. So this particular site, we would want to flag that there was an issue that all we had was a footer, um, one footer, which is what I would expect, one footer and one nav, which I would expect there to be more than one nav landmark on this page. So if I move my mouse up there, right,
Experience.
I do have this navigation that's up here in the header, but then I have another nav that's down here in the
Explore.
footer. And I've got this nav here
Credits.
for the credits. And I've got another nav here for social media. But only one of these is actually marked up as a nav in the page that was generated by AI. So that's definitely something that we would want to take a look at and get that fixed. So another issue that we found by testing the page with NVDA. All right, let's take a look at what we want to do next. There are a lot of controls around reading the text, and you can like go to the next line, the previous line, the next character, the previous character, the next word, the previous word, etc. And those are obviously very handy for somebody who's using a screen reader for daily use. They're not necessarily as helpful when you're doing accessibility testing unless are specifically testing to see how something is getting read out. But you can, for the most part, if you're just a tester and not an everyday screen reader user, you can put your mouse over something and have it read it out to you. So if I want to see
Mariner
like
10's first Hubble Extra Solar Planet.
So I didn't mean to move my mouse over that link, but you can see like it's just going to read that link out to me. If I want to know what this says,
Mariner of email.
I can tell how that's going to get read out to me. So you can definitely. So what I'm working off of here is DeQ, the company DeQ publishes these keyboard shortcuts for all of the different screen readers. If you just do a web search for um, screen reader keyboard shortcut list or keyboard or screen reader cheat sheet or something like that, you'll come up with them. So there is a printable, like this is what I have. They have a single page printable PDF for each one. The text is very small, so it's not the easiest to read, but they do have that available. But then they also have an HTML version that's on the website. So if you need that because you want to listen to it instead of printing it, or you just need the text to be bigger, you can use that directly off their website. So directly use the HTML version that's off their website. All right, so let's take a look at, let's try to fill out this form and see what kinds of issues that we might run into trying to fill out this form. So let's see. Let's go ahead and let me reopen that menu. Let's see if it'll work this time. Nope.
Search. Microsoft Bing. Open sidebar.
Okay.
Discover Mercury.
I think I had to
Journey
do
to
it
the
over
innermost
here.
planet.
7.
Elements list dialog. Desktop.
All right.
Element.
We'll open this navigator again, and we'll go to the
type.
form fields.
Grouping. Your name tree view.
And I want to fill
Your
in
name,
this contact
edit,
form.
Has autocomplete 16 of 22 level.
Let's go to it.
Your name edit has autocomplete.
All right, so it is telling me that it has autocomplete. It is telling me that the label is your name. So that all seems pretty promising. If I want to move to the next form field, I can hit the letter F.
Email address edit has autocomplete.
And I can hear that that has the email address as a label. and it has autocomplete turned on. Of course, nothing is getting autocompleted because I don't have any autocomplete saved in my browser. So I'll hit the F key so that we can skip to the interest field.
Interest combo box collapsed Mercury flyby.
Okay. So again, we hear it's called interest. We hear that it's a combo box, that it's currently collapsed, and that the current option that's selected is Mercury flyby. Um, I can hit
Interest combo box Mercury flyby collapsed. Combo box expanded.
okay.
Mercury flyby list.
All right.
Mercury flyby 1 of 4.
Okay. So if I hit the space bar, that's going to open up the menu so that I can make a selection. I can use the arrow keys to go through my options. So I'll do that now. And you did hear before I turned it off, it told you that there were 4 options here. So we know that we have 4 options.
Mercury landing 2 of 4.
So it tells me the name of the option and tells me it's 2 of 4 so that I can understand what the structure of this select is, even if I can't see it.
Grand Mercury tour 3 of 4. Other 4 of 4.
Okay. So now we hear what our 4 different options are. We would choose whichever one that we want and just hit the enter key.
Interest combo box other collapsed.
And then it's going to let us know that it selected other and close the combo box again. So I can hit the letter F on the keyboard. No, maybe I have to hit.
Message edit multi-line blank.
Okay, so now it's telling me I'm on a multi-line called message. So I can fill in the message. So far this form seems like it's in pretty decent shape. Let me go ahead and hit the tab key again.
Send message button.
So send message button. Okay, so this is where I would send my message. Let's go ahead and try to send it, even though we haven't really filled anything in, and see what happens.
Discover Mercury. Journey to the innermost planet busy. Navigation landmark Discover Mercury.
Okay, so if you are confused at what just happened, it submitted the form. The form is a fake form, so it doesn't go anywhere. So essentially, what we ended up doing was just refreshing the page. So, not a super realistic scenario for what we might see on the web, um, but that's what happened here. And it did let us just submit the form, even though it was empty. So, ideally, we would want to catch that there were things missing from the form and inform the user that they were missing required fields. We would probably also want to mark the required fields so that the user understood what those were. I'm just going to scroll back down to the form and we'll see if there happens to
Experience the
be,
extreme beauty of our solar system's innermost planet.
we'll see,
Desktop.
we'll see if that happens to tell us anything extra. Uh, yeah. So there are no errors or anything visible on this form. So this form definitely needs a little bit of attention. You generally don't want to allow users to submit a completely empty form. Um, depending on what you're doing with that form data on the back end, maybe you just created an empty row in a database table, or maybe it wasn't completely empty. Maybe it filled in the other interest, right? But it's not useful information to you. Um, or it sent off an email to you, right? That was empty, that didn't have any data in it. So, depending on how you're handling that form data on the back end, you really don't want users to be able to submit just an empty form. So, one thing we didn't hear when we were stepping through this form was anything about any of these fields being required, which technically was correct because it didn't require us to fill anything in order to be able to submit the form. But I think for it to actually be a functional and user-friendly form, we would want to have some of those fields marked as required. And if we tried to submit the form, we would expect to see some kind of error message that was happening and telling us like, oh, hey, you forgot to fill in this required field so that users have a chance to come back and fill that in before they submit the form. So there is a accordion toggle on this page as well. And I just kind of want to demo that for you and testing that with a screen reader. So let me find it on the page. Okay, here it is here.
Frequently asked questions.
Okay, so we have our frequently asked questions page, and
Packages experience same page link. FAQ same page link. Contact same page link. Is it safe to travel to Mercury?
Okay.
Button.
So it does correctly read out that is it safe to travel to Mercury is a button. But you can see that when I activate that button by pressing the space bar on the keyboard, the screen reader said nothing. But what actually happened on the screen is that that accordion expanded and gave me extra content to read. But as a screen reader user, there was no way for me to hear that that happened. I have no idea that that actually happened or that activating that button did anything because the screen reader didn't announce anything to me. Let me go ahead and try to tab to the next button and see what happens.
How long does the journey take? Button.
So another option that or another problem that we would want to flag on this page, which is not directly related to the screen reader testing, is that the focus is currently on that button that says how long does the journey take. We heard it read out by the screen reader, but there's no visual indication at all on the screen that that button currently has focus. Right? I would normally expect there to be some kind of outline or highlight on that button so that I could visually see what has focus. Now, not necessarily relevant for screen readers because screen readers are just going to read it out, and I'll know what has focus because I'll hear it. But for other users who may be navigating by the keyboard and things like that, you do want to make sure that there is a visible focus available on things when they receive focus so that I can tell where the focus is and where I'm moving around on the page. So let me go ahead and activate this button and we'll see what happens this time. Absolutely nothing. My screen reader had nothing to say about that button getting toggled. So there are some ARIA attributes missing here. There's some JavaScript missing here that would help to communicate the status of those different panels of the accordion to the user. So I do have another version of this page that we have an intern on our team who has been working on this site to create a more accessible version of it. So let's skip over to that more accessible version and we'll compare the experience of using the accordion and we'll try submitting that form and we'll look at a few other things on the site to compare so that we have an idea of what we're looking for. So let me just skip over here.
Navigate Mercury.
And this is still being worked on, so it is in progress. So yes, you will see some things that look a little bit unusual, but I think we should have a more accessible version of this panel.
Frequent discover Mercury. Journey to the sun's close. Frequently asked questions.
All right.
Book your voyage, but learn how. Book now, but book, view. Is it safe to travel to Mercury? Button collapsed.
Okay, so right away I hear a difference, right? On the other version of the page, I just heard, is it safe to travel to Mercury button? Here I hear, is it safe to travel to Mercury button collapsed? So now I can understand that this is something that is closed, right? And if I activate that button with the spacebar,
expanded.
Now I know what just happened. Activating that button expanded that section. So if I want to, let's just start reading and we'll see what happens. Insert down arrow.
Button expanded. Is it safe to travel to Mercury? Button collapsed. How long does the journey take? Button collapsed. What's the best time of year to visit?
All right, interesting. So it still skipped over the open bit of content there when I told it to start reading from where it currently is. So that's maybe something that we still need to take a look at and make sure that that content is actually getting read. Let me try to just go to the next item. Just let me refresh my memory here with down arrow.
Button collapsed. What should I pack? Button collapsed. What's the best time of year to button collapsed? How long does the button expanded? Is it safe to travel to Mercury? Yes. Button collapsed. How long does the button expanded? Is it safe to travel to Mercury?
Yeah, so it seems to just be skipping over that content that is open there. And even when I just say the next item, even though I can see it on the screen, it doesn't seem like the screen reader is necessarily picking it up. Let me try one more thing. So when I said just to read from here, let's try one more thing. Let me look at my text navigation. Say next line. End of line. Let's see. Let's try next word, next word.
Save. 2. Travel. 2. Mercury. Out of button collapsed how long?
Yeah, it's just skipping right over that content. So that's something that I think we would want to take a look at, even though the button seemed to be
Oh. Button collapsed. What's the best time of year to visit?
no, it seems to be programmed correctly.
How long does the journey take?
And I
Button collapsed.
Okay, there we go. I can now see the focus. You notice that I can tell how long does the journey take. That button actually has focus on it. I can tell if I hit tab, we'll see that focus move to the next button.
What's the best time of year to visit? Button collapsed.
So visually, I can now see what is highlighted. So that is that's been improved on this version of the site. Let's go ahead and take a look at that form that we were working with earlier and compare our experience of filling in this form with the experience of, well, we didn't really fill it in, but the experience of interacting with the form that was on the original AI generated version of the page.
Frequently asked questions.
All right.
Your name. First, your name. First and last edit required invalid entry has autocomplete blank.
All right. So we now hear that the form is required, that what's in there currently is invalid because it's a required field. So having it empty means that it's invalid. And it also clarified that it wants my first and last name. So we understand a little bit better about what's happening here. So my form field is marked as required. I understand I have to fill that in. Um, and let me just go ahead and we'll move to the next form field and listen to what we have there.
Email address. User at example.com edit required invalid entry has autocomplete blank.
Okay. So that was a lot of information kind of all presented there. So we have email address, we have an example of how to fill in the form, right? User at example.com. We heard that it's required. We heard that what's currently in the field is invalid and that the form is currently blank, which is why it's invalid because it's a required field. So having it be blank is actually invalid. Let's go ahead and move to the select drop down box.
Package interest combo box select one collapse required invalid entry.
Okay. So same information kind of again. It's a required field. It currently says select one, which is an option that doesn't actually have a value. So the field is essentially empty and therefore invalid.
Combo box expanded. Select one list. Select one unavailable 1 of 5.
Okay. So now I hear that I have 5 options that are in this option. Select one is the currently selected option. I've got 4 other options because I know I have 5 total. And let's just use the arrow key to move down through those and see what we hear.
Mercury flyby 2 of 5. Mercury landing 3 of 5. Grand Mercury tour 4 of 5. Other 5 of 5.
Okay, and I find the one that I want.
Package interest combo box other collapse required.
Okay. You notice that it no longer read that it was invalid because now it has a value. I made a selection. It still tells me that it's required. It tells me what the currently selected value is. Okay, let's move to the next form field.
Message. Optional. Edit multi-line blank.
So I understand that this is an optional field. I don't have to fill it in. I understand that it's a multi-line field. So if I want to type a couple paragraphs of text in here, that's definitely an option. And what I want to try on this form is submitting it and let's see what happens, even though it's empty and I've left out required fields.
Send message button.
Okay, so I activated that button, and screen reader wise, nothing happened, right? Like nothing got read out to me. Um, so I don't know, right? Like if I can't see the screen, I don't know what just happened. Visually, I saw error messages pop up on the two required fields that I didn't fill in. But screen reader wise, I didn't hear anything that's going to tell me that there was a problem submitting my form. So that's something that we would want to take care of. Let me go ahead and put my focus back in that first form field and we'll see what we hear.
Best pack emit your name. First and last edit required invalid entry has autocomplete blank.
So I hear that it's invalid, I hear that it's required, and I hear that it's blank. I don't hear the error message read out to me. The please enter your full name. Ideally, we would have heard that read out. So that's something that we want to still take care of and address. So let me go ahead and go to the email address and see what we hear on that field.
Email address, user@example.com edit required invalid entry has autocomplete blank.
So invalid entry, but blank. And I can hear that it's required. But again, I don't hear that error message. Please enter a valid email address being read out to me. So that's something that we would want to take care of on this particular form. All right, how am I doing time-wise? Let's see. Oh, we have 2 minutes left. All right. So we took a look at how to use an accordion with NVDA and how to test it for accessibility. We looked at two different versions. One of them had better accessibility than the other, though I think that one still had an issue that we needed to fix. I'm a little bit confused about why it was skipping over the content that was inside of the accordion, and it didn't seem like I could find a way to make it read that expanded content at all. So that's something that we would want to take a look at. And then we also looked at two versions of the form. One of them correctly had forms marked as required, and it did trigger an error message and not let us submit the form with those required fields left empty. But maybe it needed a little bit more work on ensuring that those error messages actually got read out to the screen reader and that something got announced to the screen reader when the form submission failed. Because we did see that when I submitted the form, I saw visually error messages pop up on the screen, but nothing at all was announced for screen reader users to let us know that the form submission didn't work. Right? We just heard silence. The same as when we were testing on the inaccessible version of the accordion, right? When we triggered those buttons to open and close the accordion panels, we heard nothing. On the more accessible version, it did at least let us know, oh, hey, we expanded some content. Now, I couldn't get to that content to actually read it, but at least I understood that the button, like activating that button actually did something, right? It actually expanded some content. So I understand what the purpose of that button is. And I understand what's happening there, even if there was another issue and I couldn't actually get to the expanded content. So I hope that that gives you a good idea of some different things that you can use for checking the heading structure, for checking link and button text, for checking form fields, for checking interactive elements like accordions using a screen reader. Don't be intimidated. Go ahead and give it a try. I mean, the main thing to know is how to make it stop talking, which is just hitting the control key on the keyboard will make it stop talking when it's talking at you and you don't want it to be. And then, of course, insert plus the Q button is going to turn off NVDA entirely or shut down the application. So understand that those things are there. You can turn it off if you want to. It doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be confusing. And you can just work your way through. Again, just do a Google search for NVDA cheat sheet or NVDA keyboard shortcuts, and it will take you to the Q's page where they have their, an HTML version of the page that describes to you all the different keyboard shortcuts that are available, and or you can download and or print the single page PDF. if you have really good eyes, because it's maybe, I don't know, 8-point text that's on here. It's quite small. Um, and of course, you could, like, if you wanted to, if you had bigger paper, or you wanted to print it on multiple sheets, like you could enlarge it and print it that way as well. That's also an option. All right. I'm not sure exactly what we'll be doing in the next live stream 2 weeks from now, but we'll have another one 2 weeks from now, and I'll announce next week what the topic of that will be. I hope that you're able to join me next time. And I hope that you learned a little bit something about navigating your way around with a screen reader and learning how to navigate not having a visual UI in front of you as you're using the tool. Because most of the time, you don't have that visual UI in front of you, right? The interface of most screen readers is just an odd audio interface. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.
Desktop, some link and StreamYard button ends, heading level 4 and